when we talk about Latin America and we talk about colorism and anti-blackness, a lot of people love to really point out that the Dominicans, without understanding the history of the Dominican Republic and how the way it went down with Trujillo and everything that has happened on the island of Hispaniola, that it is in the fiber of the country that it's going to take, just like it's going to take time to get rid of that here in the States. It's not just going to go away. It's not a conscious decision, but I get really tired of anti-blackness always being attributed to Latinos, the Latinx community, as if it doesn't exist in the Black community, in the Asian community, in the African community. It's right. Everywhere.
Right.
And it makes me so upset because we end up picking on people. And like I said, we just start doing what white people did to us to each other. And it's so counterproductive.
Exactly. No, I think you're absolutely right. And so if you have the ability in your community, in your faith-based institution, in your social clubs, or, now with Zoom, in your Zooms, where you can center proactive love of Black people, I ask people to do it, right? Like I have this thing. I need to be as full of Harriet Tubman love as I can, right? So Harriet Tubman love for me is when we were taught to not like each other. We were taught to think that Black skin is less valuable. And yes, I see the comment. It is exhausting. We were taught to think that you needed lighter skin to be beautiful. You needed straighter hair. Like, these are things that were intentionally taught. There were systems put in place so that these lessons would be replicated and that they would be passed down generation to generation. So for me, Harriet Tubman kind of stands as like a symbol, like a guardian against that, because she's like, I'm going to love you enough to know that you are so sick with internalized white supremacy that you might want to be free, but your fear is going to keep you stuck on this plantation. So I'm going to love you enough to know that I got to have this gun, to shoot at the masters and the dogs if they come at us. But I also got to be able to lovingly aim it at you to let you know that once you step out on this pathway to freedom, there ain't no going back, because I can't have you risking everything for everybody else. And I'm going to love you enough to let you know that up front. And so for me, Harriet Tubman love says, okay, we're going to try to be free. The first time she runs away, one of the first groups of people she tries to run with is her relatives. She's got brothers, her family. They bugged out. They're scared. They're like, we ain't doing this. Like, this, do you hear them dogs? Like, we got to go. They end up dragging her back. She could have been like, all right, bet. I'm done with you trifling in words. Like, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to get myself to freedom and be done. But she recognizes that you don't blame someone who cannot walk for being crippled. You don't blame someone who cannot see for being blind. You provide accommodations. So if you can't see with your eyes, I'm going to give you what you need in Braille. If you cannot walk, I'm going to give you crutches and a wheelchair. I'm not going to blame you for your sickness. I'm going to create the conditions so that I can help you heal, because I love you more than I was taught to hate you. And that, I think, for me, the only difference between us and what's happening in the Dominican Republic right now is we had James Brown, I'm Black and I'm proud. We had like a one drop rule that said that we basically, there was no options. We could not, blanqueamiento our way into a better class. That's kind of it, right? It's there, but for the grace of God go we. And so it's a process of learning. It's a process of growing. And I just feel like if we could center the lessons from our heroes and sheroes, those people whose names that we call every Black History Month, then and empower and employ the tools that they use, I think that is a pathway towards healing. And we just need more of that, frankly.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And, my heroes. So when people tell me, because I'm a Caribbean woman, that I'm not a foundational Black person in this country, which, I always hold a space that is specific to Black Americans, right? That is a journey that is unlike other journeys, and that we can't deny that. But I also am very proud of the Toussaint overtures. My father's Dominican, so I know that my bloodline runs through Haiti, and there's some Haitian blood in me, and
yes,
my Puerto Rican family. But when we think about Louis Farrakhan, and we talk about Marcus Garvey, and when we talk about Malcolm X, these are people who all have Caribbean roots. Yeah. And I think it just does us a great disservice when we pick and choose whose ideologies we want to adopt and we want to preach on, without acknowledging the wholeness of those people and where they actually come from and what their roots are. Because yes, we all come from the motherland and we landed in different spaces. But the fact that we try to qualify what Blackness is, depending on where you are with regards to geography is such a thing that is so it's so white supremacy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. And it really doesn't serve anybody but the interests of white supremacy. It doesn't help you and me. It doesn't help our people. Like, but it does help to keep us further occupied so that we're not focused on the real issues. So if we take it back to plantation politics, if we're on a plantation and I run away and you're forced to be a part of the group that has to capture me and bring me back, and then maybe both of us have a third friend who's now charged with whooping my behind in front of the master to the master's satisfaction, I might be mad at you. I might be mad at that third friend who's forced to whip me. And so long as you and I and the other sister are beefing, we're never paying attention to the white man over here with the gun who's ruling over everything and just creating circumstances for us to battle each other. The whole idea of foundational blackness, I understand where people were trying to go with it. I try to say as open-hearted as I can, but the reality is, my question is, does this free us, and does this get us closer to freedom for all of our people? Because if my segment of the population gets free and yours ain't, am I really free? Like, let's think about Wakanda. Like the Jabari tribe and the tribe with the plates in their mouth, they didn't rock together all day, every day, but they all knew that when the ships came, it was Wakanda forever, right? So we can have our pockets, we can have our individual villages, but there has to be, for me, what's foundational blackness is knowing that regardless of whether you're in this village, you in that village, I'm in this village, when the call goes out, we are one people. So I'm cool with diversity. I'm cool with, and Black people are the most diverse people on the planet. I'm cool with that. But I just need us to have my foundation. If we truly talking foundational blackness, it's all of Africa for all of Africans. Whether you here, on which side of the water you are, which side of the boat you got off. Because otherwise, your foundation is cracked. Your foundation is like trying to build a house on sand. And we know from the good book of many religious traditions that you build a house on sand and you're going to fall. And I've yet to be convinced that my allegiance should be to this particular slice of Americana or slice of Pan-Africa, as opposed to being committed and attached to the whole of our people.
Yeah, no, it's a complicated conversation to have now because, as we become empowered, it just, when you think about the 70s and what was happening in the Black community in America, and there was a flourishing in the 60s, and you saw, so there was a way to come about and cause division in that, and they sprinkled the crack in the Black communities, and then you started to see this, we're not like that. Those are the poor people. Those are the, but it was those, they belong to the tribe, right? And there's the reason they're being victimized is to cause this division. And you see it now again, because we are flourishing and we're thriving. And so now there's like, somebody sent me the seriousness between the battle of the Black man and the Black woman. And I'm like, man, they perpetuate all of these arguments and these things so that we can continue to stay at odds so that they can keep us all down.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that.
And it's a tried and true pattern, right? It's something that we see repeatedly. And it's funny because I'm married to a Black man. I love that Black man. That's a good brother, right? And so we'll sometimes have these conversations where that's my boo. Oh, I love that man. But we'll have these conversations where we're talking about those types of battles and the pitting against each other. And what we will usually find is that there's a nugget in there of somebody's being hurt, somebody who was wounded, somebody who may have been wounded repeatedly by people who look kind of similar. And out of that personal experience, you create this trope or this archetype that kind of says, well, all people who look like this hurt me in this same particular way. And then by the time it gets to Facebook, however, it's the Black woman can't stand the Black man, or the Black man is never there for the Black woman. Well, no, bro, you hurt, or sis, you hurt. And I understand your personal hurt, but we have to be able to use some tools that are going to help us to recognize I am wounded in this particular area. I have these particular hurts. I cannot take my particular hurt and then use that to paint with a broad brush over the entirety of my community. And at the same time, we need people to hold each other accountable. So what helps those types of tropes and memes to continue is you sitting in a room with the rest of the bros and the bros is talking all types of ish about the sister, and you support or condone it and make it something that is acceptable as opposed to challenging it. Or you sitting in the barbershop and hear these, or the hair salon, and hear these sort of repeated injuries, you know, well, black man can't never, and the black woman ain't never. And if there's no one to interrupt that way of thinking, if there's no one that's going to interrupt that conversation and say, let's pull back from this a minute and let's think about this differently, that you are in fact perpetuating that very same system, which again, it ain't helping you. It ain't helping me. You know who is helping? The white person you got to pay rent to because you don't even have enough financial resources to own the building that you open up your barbershop or hair salon in. So you paying rent to the, you see what I'm saying? So we end up in these spaces where we're battling each other, all for allowing people who have access to privilege and power to keep that access to privilege and power. And I think we just got to be smart enough to say there's a different way to do this. We may not know how to do it, but this ain't it.
No, it's not.